Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast, the podcast where the dogs are the stars of the show. Welcome to episode 96 of the Relaxed Dog Podcast, sponsored by therelaxeddog.com. Thank you very much for finding this show. I am your host, Robert Ober, and I hope that you and your dog are well. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all again for listening and for expanding our little group of people who appreciate how awesome dogs are. I, again, really appreciate you guys sharing and telling a few extra people to listen in, and I can see that on some of the statistics that I occasionally look at. It's great to see more people that just love dogs. My guest this week is Sue London, and she is going to be telling us all about Rocky and some very interesting experiences that she and Rocky have had. So without any further delay, here's that interview. Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast. I am here today with Sue London. How are you?
I'm great, and thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, an absolute pleasure. So whereabouts in the world are you?
So I'm in Ontario, Canada. I'm about 15 minutes from Niagara Falls. You heard of Niagara Falls?
Yeah, it's that little waterfall somewhere up north of America.
Oh, a big waterfall, yeah. and where I am, I'm right at the border in Ontario. I look over at Buffalo, New York. So really beautiful area, where I'm located. So
very, very
got
nice.
The best of all the worlds,
Just trying to think. And so season-wise, you're sitting in
We're summer right now.
Summer, yep.
Yeah. We've been having really hot weather. It's been like 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not normal for Canada at all. Crazy weather.
Oh, it's something we'll sort of touch on a little bit later. So who are we going to talk about today?
So we're going to talk about Rocky. Rocky was my little Shih Tzu who came in my life at the right time. I thought I was saving his life, and he ended up saving my life over and over.
I think that's a common thread, I think, that we hear from people.
It's true. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. As per usual, I'm going to ask you to take us back in time to just before you and Rocky connected, and tell us about the hows and whys that happened.
Okay, so I was an only child growing up, and I had a dog that I named Spot. I got Spot when I was only 2, so she had a little spot on her butt, and that's how she got her name. And she was like my sister, and we were very, very, very close. And I had her for 19 years. And when I lost her, it was like losing a limb. It's, many people can identify with, right? And I swore, the pain I felt, I was never, ever getting another dog ever again. And this is, fast forward now, like 5 years. And this neighbor behind us said, his dog had just had this litter of puppies, and that he wanted to give me one of these dogs. And it was a little Shih Tzu. And I said, never again am I ever getting another dog. I can't handle that pain of losing a dog. And he said, no, you have to take the dog. So I said no. And at the time, I was married to somebody who was not an animal lover. And I'll go into that story about him later. But so we never got the dog. And so then a year after that, this neighbor came back to me and said, I really need you to take this one dog. He got adopted. He's a year old now, the puppy, and the owner's going to have to put him down because she works in a mall, and she can't have the dog in the mall, and she has no home for it. So she's thinking about putting this 1-year-old Shih Tzu down. Well, when I heard that, it's like, no way. And so I said, well, I would take him. And I thought I'll deal with the after effects with my husband. And, because I knew I just had to rescue this dog. When I said he was not an animal lover, he was definitely not an animal lover. And so I brought Rocky home, and that's when the journey together began. And 8 months after bringing Rocky in, I became pregnant with my first daughter, and I started having complications in the pregnancy. And I was ordered to bed rest for the last 3.5 months. And so at that time, Rocky never left my side. He stayed right beside me, followed me in the washroom. If I wanted to go up the stairs, he would block the way. So as a reminder, you can't go up the stairs. Like I just stay on the one main level. Mm-hmm. So, he got me through the pregnancy. And then, the baby's born. Bring the baby home, put the baby on the floor, like here, here's your new little friend here, Rocky, introducing them and that, and really strong bond developed between the baby and him. And then the baby was 9 months old. And then I started having health complications, which they diagnosed me as having Crohn's disease. And Crohn's disease, are you familiar with that? It's a disease that it is like inflammation anywhere in your intestinal tract. Mm-hmm. You can lose, rapid weight loss. I lost 60 pounds in a matter of 3 months, and a lot of complications around that. So at this point, I'm diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I'm spending like 3 hours at a time in the washroom, taking this 9 to 10 month old little girl in the bathroom with me. I'd bring Rocky in the washroom with me to look after her, to entertain her while I was being sick. That was our life. And so, we went through that journey. And then I started noticing how healing he was for me, because when I would have the pain with Crohn's disease, I'd maybe have like really bad pain in my stomach, ab area, and he would lick an opposite area to where I had the pain. Okay. So if I had in my stomach, he would lick my face or he would lick my legs. And that helped to take the focus away from the pain. Mm-hmm. It was amazing how I was experiencing firsthand pet therapy. And I really started understanding what it was. And then fast forward from there, then, the disease was getting worse and I was having more complications. I ended up having over 18 surgeries because of Crohn's disease. So, when I'd have the pain, he taught me that what I was doing was when I'd have the pain, I would tighten my body. So when I tightened my body, I was making the pain actually worse. So when I was doing that and he noticed, he would come up, and a lot of times I was laying in bed or on a couch, and he would come up and he would bury his head in my shoulder and he would breathe really loudly. And at first, when he started doing this, it was very irritating to me. It's like, Rocky, go lay down. Go lay down. And he would come up and we'd go back and forth with this for like about 3 times. I thought, okay, I give up. Like he's more stubborn than I am, And so then I realized that when I stopped and I listened to his breathing, he was actually getting me to focus on my breathing, and it actually loosened my body and the pain lessened. So that was a huge lesson that this dog taught me right there, right? And then I guess it was in 92, I became pregnant. The doctors said that the disease had gone into remission. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to have a second baby, then that was the time. And so I became pregnant, and it was almost like as soon as I became pregnant, the disease flared up again. Oh, no. And my weight went down to just 80 pounds. And that was like half my weight. And I was in the hospital for many months, and I was dehydrated. I couldn't walk 4 feet to the washroom because I was so weak, and I had an IV pole attached to me, and 2 nurses had to help me. Just, you kind of get the picture, right? Very weak in that.
Not good.
And so I had the doctor come in my room, and he said to me, we need to talk, that, this is not working and you can't keep going on like this. You have to make a choice. Who's going to live here? Is it going to be you, or is it going to be your baby? So I said to him, I'm a real firm believer that everything in our life happens for a reason. and that I was pregnant for a reason. I was going to stay pregnant. I was going to deliver a beautiful child, and we were both going to live and enjoy life together. And that's all there was. It was like a given to me. There was no other options for that. And so I said to him, my choice I'm making is I'm firing you as my doctor. And he said, you can't fire doctors. And he was in shock. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but, I believe in miracles. I've seen miracles happen. And, I want a doctor who believes that miracles can happen here. So I think he's still in shock, like 30 years later over all this. So anyways, the next day, a new doctor came in and he introduced himself and said, I see, by your pictures, around your bed that you love animals. And I said, yeah. And he's, was asking about who's this? And I said, it was Rocky. Well, when was the last time you saw him? And I said, it's been like 3 months now because I was in the hospital for so long. Right. And so he said, well, you know what? We're going to get that dog down here to the hospital. That dog needs to come and see you. So I thought, this is great. And at that point in 92 in Canada, animals were not allowed in hospitals or anywhere, let alone, coming in and this kind of thing. So what happened the next day, my family brought Rocky down to the hospital, but he was not allowed to come into the building. So he was allowed to be on the patio area. And then a nurse said she would go get a wheelchair and she would bring it to my room and get me in the wheelchair and get me out on the patio to see this dog. So she came into my room and she said, Rocky's here. I'm just going to get a wheelchair and give me 15 minutes. Well, the love that I had and have still for this dog, I thought, I can't wait 15 minutes. And my strong will and determination really, really kicked in. And remember, I couldn't even walk to the washroom 4 feet, right? So I got out of bed and I thought, I can do this. I want to see my dog. And I just kept visualizing in my mind, I'm holding Rocky. He's licking my face. I love when animals lick me, by the way. And, he's licking my face and we're going to be great. And we're going to see this new baby together. And I'm home and everything's great. Right. So I focused on that and I got out of bed, grabbed my IV pole, and I focused on the walls in front of me. I'm going to take a couple steps to the wall. And then I focused, okay, let me get to the door now of my hospital room. And so this is what I did. And I had to walk about 1,000 feet in order to get down to see him. And I just, I got out in the hall and I grabbed the railing and I took inch by inch and I just kept seeing him on my mind. I'm going to see Rocky. I'm going to hold him and, it's going to be great. And I just kept going through this in my mind. And then when I got down to a point where I could see his little tail wagging way down the end through that glass door, something filled my body that I cannot explain, but it was like magic. And it just wiped away everything that was happening within me. And I got so focused on this dog that my pace quickened and I feel strong. And like, it was like a different body, different world. So I opened the door and then, Rocky, little Shih Tzu, he jumped up on me and he licked my face. He was yelping. He was so excited. I was crying. And, that was where the magic started. And then 2 days later, I went home and I was feeling better. And they said that dog truly had created a miracle for me. And so I delivered a beautiful baby girl. And wonderful. That baby girl she's 30. And she's having a baby girl in the next 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So
congratulations.
We're on baby call at our house, right? And so, this is really exciting. So every time that baby, she graduated from kindergarten, I'm in the front row crying, grateful that I look back at that whole situation at the hospital and what that dog did for me. Then she graduates, into high school, crying again. When she got married, I'm in the front row bawling, so we always go back and they always say, yeah, Mom's thinking about Rocky and what he did for her again,
Oh, it's amazing,
so
dog.
I got through all that. And then in 96, my health started going downhill again. And I went to the hospital and they told me I had a torn muscle. And what happened, it was not a torn muscle. I went back 4 hours later. And while I was sitting in the Emerge waiting room, I collapsed on the floor. My intestine burst.
Oh.
And yeah. And they took me in and they said it was too late. And they said, you've got 30 minutes to live. And who do you want to say goodbye to? And I said right away, my dog, Rocky. And it was too late. And so as soon as I said that, I started having a near-death experience and I went to the other side. And I was at a point in my life at that time that this man that I was married to, the one that didn't like animals, he had become very abusive physically and emotionally in our relationship. And I was at a point where, when people get abused, they don't tell people or they think it's their fault. So I hadn't told people what I had gone through. And so that was making me sicker, the stress of it all and not telling people or, getting help or that. And so here I am, in this place, like I had this husband who was abusing me. He was never around. And I learned later that he actually had a girlfriend for 14 of our 16 years marriage. And so, but, it's all great. It all happened for a reason. And so, I'm asking for this dog. And when I'm in this light, I thought, you know what, like, I love this heaven. Like it's joy and it's love and it's incredible. And I wanted to stay. And in my life, in my childhood, my best friend was my grandpa Buck. And he was the one who I trusted. I could believe. And if anyone could get through to stubborn little Susie, and I will say I was stubborn, strong-willed, whatever you want to call it, I would listen to him and he would get through to me. So it was him that stopped me in the white light, him, and he had Jesus at his side. And they said to me, it was not my time, that I had to go back because I had millions of pets and their owners that I had to help. I had to help them to cope, heal, and move forward in their lives. And I thought, okay, seriously, like, how am I going to do this, right? So then I believing my grandfather and knowing, the relationship we had and I could always trust him, I came back. And then that's when I discovered that, this man I was married to, there was so much more that, I wasn't going to put up with this. And so I showed him the door and I came home. I was in the hospital for about 5 months. I came home and it was just a whole new way I looked at life. And it was like more like 3D, kind of three-dimensional. And it was like, why do people get stressed? Why are they worrying? Like, because, whatever's supposed to happen in our life will happen, and, go with the flow and, live life differently. And so that's what I started doing. And so as I was getting better and I showed my ex the door, and I spent 5 years just working on myself, and I totally healed Crohn's disease. It's 100% gone out of my body.
Wow.
And the doctor said it was just a miracle. And that, if I let stress really affect me again, or ever went back with that man, they said I had 1% chance of ever becoming sick again. I said, well, I'm not going back with that man again. And it's not happening, right?
Was there much of a change with Rocky when you came out of the hospital that time?
Sorry, say that again?
Was there much of a change with Rocky when you came out of the hospital that time?
Well, from what I learned from my family, the whole time I was in the hospital, with that time when my intestine burst, as well as when I was pregnant with the baby, he never left the front door the whole time. And so when I came home, I was tripping over him. He did not leave me. And he was sniffing me, like when I came home the second time, because my energy was so different, because I was like at a different place. And really, aha moments were always going off in my head, right? And then when, I showed my ex the door, it was like, Rocky was there, but things were changing. And what was happening, he had been there for everything I had been through. And then it was in 2001, let's say. At this point, he's 16 years old. And he had, found his replacement. I always tell people, one door window shuts, but a door opens kind of thing, right? And so what had happened, Rocky started going downhill around October. October. And just before that, Mr. Right came into my life.
Nice.
And so we've been together. Ross and I have been married and been together for 22 years. And when I'm standing on stage and I'm giving a talk, and I always say that, Rocky did not leave me till he knew that I was going to be okay. And he would not leave till he found his replacement. And so at first, Ross didn't get this. He said, I'm replacing a dog. And it's like, no, you're really replacing a dog, And so he'll stand in the corner and he'll say, yes, I am the dog's replacement, And so what happened, Ross was there, and our other dog, Molly, was at the side when it was time for Rocky, to say goodbye to Rocky. And the vet came to our home, and he, said what was going to happen, with the process with needles and stuff like that. And I do Reiki on animals, and Reiki is energy healing for anyone who doesn't know what that is. And so I was doing Reiki on him, and I just simply said, I love you, Rocky. You've been such, my hero and my support. I have to help you now. It's my time to help you. And I love you so much, but I let you go. And I kissed him on the forehead. And that's all he was waiting for to hear, was for me to say, I let you go. And he took his last breath, and he didn't even need to have the needles. It was that our bond was so strong. So what happened, and like, I'm an animal communicator. I see the other side. I feel them. They talk to me. But when Rocky crossed, I became so grief-stricken, because it was like I literally was feeling like I lost a limb, because we were so connected. And I, became very consumed with grief, and I couldn't feel, see, or hear him. And it was really confusing for me with my abilities. And so Christmas Eve, so he died December 3rd, and Christmas Eve, Ross said to me, I have a special gift for you, but I feel I need to give it to you on Christmas Eve when we're alone. This is not something you open under the tree with the whole family. So I was kind of intrigued. So we were alone, and I opened this gift, and I started having chills. I couldn't explain it. And I opened it, and it was this candle holder. And it was 3 angels. And right away I looked at it, not as angels, but I saw it was Rocky, it was my grandpa Buck, and it was my guardian angel. And I took it and held it in my hands, and right away appeared in front of me, Rocky, my grandpa Buck, and my guardian angel.
Wow.
And Rocky said, I never left you, but you were so consumed with grief,
yep.
that you weren't seeing me. And that was a huge lesson for me, that I tell others that, yes, we have to mourn, but let's celebrate them. Don't, be sad for months, because they are right there trying to communicate with you. And so from that moment on, I talk to Rocky every day. We have 7 dogs, like 6 on the other side. And I talk to them every day. They tell me where I need to go. And, it's been quite a journey with him. And every time I do a speaking event, him and my grandpa Buck are in the front row. He's wagging his tail. And, my grandpa's giving me the thumbs up. And that's our life. We're still together, but in a different way.
Yes.
And, he helped me quite a lot. And from learning that, I went on to do pet therapy at our local sick kids hospital with our other dogs that we've had since, and going into nursing homes. So, he taught me so many lessons, and it's just remarkable how healing animals are, right?
Absolutely. That's wow, what a story.
Yeah.
I want to go back a little bit and take a few little sort of snapshots throughout that sort of story. Can you remember around the time when you initially got him from your neighbour, and the introduction into the household, and how that sort of went?
When we got him, he had not had a haircut. He was he didn't look loved, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like he came running. And see, when he was born, I had, gone over to the house and I had held him. And I had done Reiki on all the puppies when they were born.
Okay.
So we had built a bond right from the start, right? So he remembered me. And, bringing him in the house, we were inseparable right from the very start. It was like, reconnecting. I felt like Spot, my childhood dog, was like, okay, it's time to get over the fact that you've lost me. And, here's my replacement. So I felt like Spot was sending Rocky to me. And it was smooth. And, my ex did not like dogs. And I always say to people, if you're starting to be in a relationship with someone and they don't like animals, take that as a sign it's not a good thing. Spot used to attack my ex, and Spot never attacked at anybody. And it was like, boy, she was trying to warn me too, right? Mm-hmm. So like with the relationship with Rocky and my ex, it was not good. And he was not nice to Rocky, where Rocky knew stay away from him. But no, right from the start, Rocky and I were inseparable. And, it was like my best friend right from the start.
So with your ex, did that mean that there were certain like boundaries or areas in the house where Rocky couldn't go? Say like...
No, Rocky could still go everywhere. But I found, and see, my ex started having affairs when I found out later, when I looked back, he started having affairs a year after we were married. So he wasn't really around a lot, but he told me he was gone for his job. And of course, I was a very trusting person and believed him, because I never thought people lied. Just that's my being is, I don't lie, so I didn't expect others to. And so Rocky and I were really always together, and we'd go for walks in the park with the kids, and
So where did Rocky initially sleep, and did that change throughout time?
No, he was always in bed in my arms, like all of our other dogs are. That's why we have a king size bed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But
what about yard? What was that like for him?
Sorry, what was that?
Your yard? Did you have a yard?
Yeah, we had a really big backyard. We were on like a pie-shaped lot. It was a really big backyard. We had above ground pool, and we had life jackets for the dogs. They'd come in the pool with us, and we had like the chairs, the floating chairs, mm-hmm. And the girls and I would be in our chairs, and we had, at the time we'd have Rocky, because when Rocky was 14, he started going downhill. And with the combination of him going downhill and then my ex my kids were having a tough time with how he was treating them. So I thought, best medicine, get the kids a dog. And so we brought another dog in, Molly. So the two of them were inseparable, right? And so we had the pool chairs, and we'd have the dogs laying on the pool chairs in the water in their life jackets with us. And, that like they were literally everywhere we went, they would go. And these poor dogs were always being dressed up by the kids and, getting hats put on them. I thought, but that, Rocky never growled, never bit, would only lick. And just, was the absolute perfect dog. When I look back, he was my pet therapy dog, but he was your perfect example of what a pet therapy dog is, for when they go in nursing homes and hospitals.
Oh, nice. Did he go and visit his parents? Were there still that neighbour over the end?
No. So what happened? Mm-hmm. All of the pups were adopted. Well, you know what? Yes, they did have the mother. So they did. So all the puppies got adopted, and then he would go and occasionally see his mom, and but the parents didn't live that long, after. Okay. So, they did see, but they knew, right? And they had that connection still, right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But so, and it was interesting because that really taught me when Rocky crossed over, like Molly was there, and they were only together for 2 years. And they really, really developed a very, very strong bond.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never, ever forget the sound that Molly made when Rocky took his last breath. Like, it was horrific. And I didn't know a dog could make a sound like that. And, you know, when they say an animal will grieve for its friend, they really do. I don't know if you experienced that. She stopped eating. She sat at the door where the vet had taken him out for the last time. She had a really rough time. And we actually had to bring in our daughter's dog to be with her. And then, our grandchildren wanted their dog back. So then, Mr. Wright, how Ross and I came together, Molly was a dog that we rescued because she had been abused at 3 months old. And so we brought her in. She ended up giving Rocky 2 more years of life because it gave him a purpose, right? And so here, Rocky found his replacement. Here's Ross in my life at this point. But I hadn't really introduced him to the kids because I thought, I'm not involving a new man in my kid's life till I'm 100% happy with him or decide if this is the one, or, I want to make sure it's going to work out. And my youngest daughter, very intuitive, she knew the power of animals. And if they were a good person, then the dog would say something, you'd know, right? And Molly had been abused by a man. And anytime a man would come near, she would cower down and she would pee at their feet. And so here comes Ross, and she wasn't peeing on him. She was not cowering down. She was all scared, nothing. And I thought, okay, this is a good man, like unlike Spot attacking my ex, right?
Yeah.
So Ross had a Jack Russell, Maddie. And so we were getting them together to, so Molly had a friend. And so the one day we were at the school park and we were getting my daughter. And so my daughter saw how Molly was jumping up on Ross and all that. And she whispered in my ear, she goes, Mommy, I don't know who this man is beside you, but Molly really likes him. I think you need to marry this man.
Oh, cute.
He had no idea who he was, right? And I said, do you like this man? And she says, Molly likes him. That tells me a lot. So we always say that, Molly found, Mr. Right, and she confirmed Mr. Right. And, when it was her time, she chose him to take her. And it happened 10 minutes before I went on my live radio show on AM radio. And while I'm on my live show, I said to my producer, I said, Molly's at the vet. And he's like, oh no, she chose me to get you through this. And so I was experiencing, everything that Molly was going through with her crossing. And then I'm on the show and I said to Chris, you know what? If I say go to commercial or you need to talk, I'm falling apart here, right? And so then I said go commercial. And so then he goes to commercial. He says, what's happening? So at that same time, right in the corner of my office, because I did it through Skype, my show, because I was in Canada and that was in the States.
Yep.
And so in the corner of my office appeared Molly with Rocky. And Molly said, I'm with Rocky, Mommy, and we both love you so much, and we'll never leave you. And thank you for, being such a good mommy. Well, I'm crying, coming back on a show. I'm telling my producer, this is what's happening. He's like, we got to get through this show fast. I'm crying now, And then the next week we told all the listeners what had happened, and they were just so touched and started sharing their stories of their pets, So, everything happens as it should, right? The right ones show up, and our pets are just such gifts for us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. A normal walk with Rocky. Did you have a set sort of place or a favorite park or anything like that?
So we would go I would take the kids for walks, just around the streets, because they were young, and I'd have one in a stroller, and one might be on her oh my gosh, what are they called? oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. It wasn't a bike, but it was like a scooter.
Okay,
The two. Yep.
Yep.
And so, they'd be doing that. We would go. I had this thing with my kids that I said, to get myself healthy, one of my practices that I did was to know that I was getting healthy again. We would try something new. So our life was an adventure, and it was proving to me I could do anything that I put my mind to, because when people go through illness, they can become the disease and not have a disease. Do you understand what I mean by that? And so I'd say, like, I can't do this because I have Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
I can't go here. You know what I mean? So I was working with a trainer, and he said, look, at every week, choose something new to do so that you could know you can do it, right? So one of the things that, the girls and I would take turns picking, okay, this is what we were going to do. And that could be doing a new sport. It could be going to a new place. It could be cooking a new meal. It could be playing a new game. It was just like such a wide range of new, right? So my one daughter said, Mom, you used to figure skate. So let's get back into rollerblading and do this. And so I thought, okay, I was a gold medalist figure skater. So, I got this.
Wow.
So we went rollerblading. And of course, I had the dog on the leash, and not a good thing. And I went flying up in the air. And of course, I had shorts on, and I just tore all the skin on my leg. And my kids 30 years later still talk about Mom looking funny, leaving her skin at the corner of Thompson Road at Main Street.
Oh, I shouldn't laugh.
So we really involved like the dogs. And then, we did downhill or cross country skiing. And I just personally didn't like that sport because I just kept going backwards instead of going up the hill. And, but we created wonderful memories.
Something Rocky went to as well?
What's that?
Was that something Rocky went to as well?
Yeah. We would take the dogs with us, and, I'd have them on the leash, and that, the kids would maybe have Molly. I always had Rocky. Everybody knew Rocky was Mom's dog.
Mm-hmm.
And he would really just focus on me. He wouldn't focus on the kids. Like he would be, if they were doing something when they were little, he would, kind of pull them away from that area. Kind of like, the show Peter Pan, the dog Nan, the dog was kind of like the keeper, right. Like the dog's called the Nan. Vaguely. That was Rocky.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
how did he go in the snow?
Sorry?
How did he go in the snow?
It was there. Let's just say that. Like, it wasn't like he really, when we went out and made snowmen, he would be out there. Mm-hmm. Like we literally, like everywhere we went. But I wouldn't say he really enjoyed the snow. He was like me. The snow was there, and let's go make snowmen. When we were making the snow angels, you lay on your back, and he'd be there, and flicking the snow, that kind of thing. It wasn't like he always wanted to go out. Some of our dogs wanted to go out, and they always liked to eat the snow. They all had their different personalities, right? Yep. But his big focus was wherever I was, that's where he wanted to be.
If you had to say his favorite season for going out and doing things?
I would say probably summer, because we'd spend so much time in the pool. Mm-hmm. But if it was really, really hot, like I would not take him outside, like, because, I don't like animals out in the heat,
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah. And, car rides, he was great. One time we took a trip, because one of the things, like my doctor had said, was to help me to prove I wasn't the disease. It was like, take a trip, get away from the doctors and the hospitals and the tests and all that kind of thing. Because at one point, like I was, being rushed to emerge like 3 times a week, like when I was very, very sick. So it's kind of like, let's get you away from this, right? Mm-hmm. And so my doctors had said, like, why don't you take a trip? My husband at the time, and at that point we had the youngest daughter. She was she maybe be just like under a year. And so we couldn't take Rocky. We actually went to Quebec City in Quebec. So it was about a 10-hour drive for us. And so that was huge for me to do that, because I was always needing the washrooms, right? And you don't have those in the car. And so what happened, Rocky stayed with my parents when we were away. And what happened, my father was not the best at keeping Rocky. Like I told him, he's going to try and find me. So make sure you have him tied up or keep him in the backyard. Well, he didn't listen to that. And he thought, well, it's just a dog and he'll be fine. Well, Rocky went and took off in search of us. And so they lost the dog. And we lost him for about 3 days. And what had happened, and I was devastated. It was like I literally had lost my best friend. And so we even called the police, and the police said, you don't call us for a missing dog. I said, no, you don't know this dog. This dog really is important, And so we went door to door, and what had happened, he had gone out and in search of us. A neighbor 3 doors up had found him and thought this looked like a well-loved dog because it was well-groomed and just felt like he was lost, but they didn't know whose it was. And even though our phone number was on the tag, they didn't recognize the number. And so we did get connected after 3 days, but it was the longest 3 days of my life. He was gone. But, from that was the last time my father was allowed to look after my dogs, Yeah.
So you mentioned grooming.
Yes.
Was there any sort of like issues, and did he enjoy the process, or did he have a little bit of an issue?
He was really good. Like he's a Shih Tzu. So, we were always having his hair cut every 6 weeks. No, he was just a very laid back dog. Very, very good. He had no problems. One of the things that happened to him, I guess it was when my youngest daughter was probably around 3. He had his mouth seemed funny. It just looked funny. So we went to the vet, and the vet said he had to clean his teeth. So I thought, okay, get his teeth cleaned, and that's great. Well, I got a phone call at the end of the day, and they said that there was a problem. They had to wire Rocky's jaw.
Wow.
And I said, wire his jaw? What the heck is that about? Like, he went into you fine, right? And so they said, well, no, you must have been really rough with this dog. Your kids must have hurt him. I said, no, that is not possible in our house. Like, animals are really treated like royalty in our house. And my kids have learned this, and they respect animals. So I knew it was wrong. So he says, well, you've got a choice. Either pay me $2,500 to wire his jaw, like that bone right underneath the chin bone kind of thing. And he said, pay $2,500 to have that done, or I will put the dog down. Like, you don't have a choice here. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I have a young child, how do I go to a man that I'm married to who hates the dog and say, this is what's going on? And I was a stay-home mom because of being sick so much. I couldn't keep a job because never knew when I'd be back in the hospital because I was still, sick and with Crohn's. And so got the money anyways and got the jaw fixed. And I found out 10 years later, the vet was an alcoholic. And when he cleaned Rocky's teeth, he was drunk.
Oh, no.
And he got rough and broke the jaw. And it was his assistant who came forward 10 years later and said that the vet lost his license. And I thought, you knew our situation and you didn't speak up. And how many other animals, had serious stuff happen to them, So, it was that was really a devastating, situation, right?
Absolutely.
But so that happened to him. And I know this one time I was very careful. Like, our house was childproofed, and nothing was in cupboards on the lower level. And this one day, Rocky didn't go in a cage because I thought he's such a perfect dog. Like, he just would sit in the door waiting for us. We came home and I found this brand new bottle of vitamin C that was sealed in the middle of the kitchen table with the chairs pushed into the table. The vitamin C bottle was open, the bottle was empty, and there were 14 little piles of vomit all over the main level of the floor. And what happened, Rocky had smelled the orange flavor. And I don't know to this day how he got it open, because there was it's childproof and it was all sealed with paper. And somehow he got open. And I don't even know how he got on the kitchen table, because the chairs weren't even moved. But he had got this into this vitamin C, and we got him to the vet, a different vet at this time. And he said if he hadn't vomited, he would have died because of it being so strong. So that was like the one thing that he ate that, I will never forget, what he had done. And then there was, there was another story I was going to tell you. It just lost my mind.
That's all right. I was just going to say, I usually ask all my guests to complete the sentence. I can't believe my dog ate, but
vitamin C.
think you, just have answered that.
Yeah. It was crazy that, he had done that. But he was, other than that, and like, I still work, this is back from, we lost him in 2001. So this is like 22 years. We still talk about how did he do this?
Amazing.
So my kids and like Ross will say, you really freak out. And it's like, but how can a dog get in the middle of the kitchen table when chairs are pushed in? There's no other ways. It was a small dog. He was only like 13 pounds. And I said, I just can't believe it. But, it wasn't his time. And, and then I know I was going to say, there was another time that I don't know, maybe he had 4 years left of his life, let's say, and he had developed a tumor in the pad of his paw.
Okay.
And so I went to the vet at this lump, and the vet said that Rocky has a tumor in his paw, in the pads. And he said, we're going to have to amputate his foot and maybe his whole leg. So 14-year-old dog, there was no way I was going to do that. And at the time, I had already trained for Reiki, and I was at the level, I was a teacher. So my Reiki was pretty strong. And so I thought, I'm not having my dog's leg amputated. This is not right. And so I said, I'm going to take my dog home, and I'm going to do Reiki on him, and let's just see what happens. Maybe this is my time to give back to him now, right? And so every day, we would sit and we would watch TV and have our cuddles, and I would just hang onto his paw and just, send it healing. And within 2 weeks of doing that, the tumor went away.
Wow.
And so I called the vet. I said, look, the tumor's gone. And how did you do that? And I said, I just did Reiki. So that was really the beginning of me doing healing on animals. And now, I'm just, there's so many miracles that are happening with me doing the healing on different animals. So, so I was really grateful and blessed to be able to give back, to my dog, who gave me so much in my life. That was such a gift for me to be able to help him.
Did you have any sort of quirky habits or mannerisms?
No, he was actually the perfect dog. and you hear people say that, but he really was. And he never barked. I never, ever in 16 years of his life heard him bark.
Wow.
Dogs bark. Yeah. He never bit, never growled. It's funny because we have another Shih Tzu now. We have two dogs, Gus and Marley now. And Marley is like the reincarnation of Rocky, except Marley barks. He thinks he's a big dog, and he's only 10 pounds. And he's a Shih Tzu too. But no, Rocky, there's not one thing other than eating the vitamin C. You couldn't ask for a perfect dog. He literally was my angel dog. I really feel like he was sent to me to help me through the darkest days of my life. And he really did. And it's like he got me through everything. He came into my life, just 8 months before I started having all the challenges with, my pregnancy. And I'm thinking I'm saving his life. And look at how many times he saved my life over and over. And, it's just a gift. He was such a gift to me, and always will be.
Did he have a favorite games that he enjoyed playing?
Okay. So that's not a good subject to talk about. No. Okay, so in our house, my husband cheats at Monopoly. And okay, so my kids won't play games with him anymore. So does that tell you something what happened? So we don't play games anymore because my husband likes to cheat. He'll say, oh, they've gone to the washroom. So, he lands on their property and I don't have to pay rent. Take your turn before mom comes back from the bathroom or something. So we do puzzles in our house now. Or, we spend more time like out in nature, like where we live in the Niagara region of Southern Ontario, Canada. It's the most beautiful, like we're like 5 minutes from the water. So that's where we spend a lot of our time, outdoors, and take the dogs down, have picnics, watch the ducks on the river,
Did Rocky go out on like hikes and things like that with you?
All the time. Yeah. Oh yeah. Everywhere I go, I even would take him. I have a children's book series called Rocky's Journey is the series. And the first book is Rocky's Trip to the Hospital. And that's based on my story. It's about a little girl, Marie, and my middle name is Marie. And so it's based on Rocky coming to the hospital to help a little girl.
Nice.
That's my story of that situation. And what happened, I would take Rocky into, we had a store called Zellers, and they're no longer in Canada. They closed up. But animals were, like in that time, not allowed in stores. So I would put him in my purse, or I'd put him in the grocery buggy, and I didn't want to leave him in the car. Or, like when his jaw he was, overcoming that, I wanted to keep an eye on him, and so I would wrap him up in a blanket and I would put him in the grocery buggy, and people would bend down and say, oh, your little baby's so cute. And then they'd see his face and they're like, oh, that's a dog, And so in that children's book, I talk about like Rocky going shopping, and that really did happen.
Nice.
So I took him places where they weren't supposed to go. And, it really showed me in that time who the real animal lovers were, like of store owners and that, and where you could go in and stuff like that. Right. But we were inseparable.
Did you have any sort of like interesting interactions with other species?
No, he was very laid back. He really took on the role of mothering Molly when we brought Molly into the house. Again, she was only 3 months old and she had been abused already. So he took on the role of really mothering her, and which was really nice to see. And like he kind of got me through my stuff, and then he took over looking after her.
Okay, nice.
But if he saw birds, like some dogs will go crazy if there's a bird. He didn't do that. It was just like, yeah, there's a bird, and very laid back kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Very, very nice. What sort of breed was Molly, and what sort of size? Just getting a comparison.
Molly or Rocky?
Molly.
So Molly was a Shih Tzu as well.
Oh, Shih Tzu as well?
So,
okay, yep.
Yeah, so Rocky was a Shih Tzu, and he was about 14 pounds, and Molly was a Shih Tzu. She was smaller. She was more petite, and she was probably around maybe 11 pounds. But she was very, like, she had been abused, so she was like skin and bone when we got her, even at 3 months old, And I remember one time that, puppies will do puppy things, right? And so she got under one of the trees in our backyard, and at the same time, a baby bird had fallen out of the nest in the tree. And so she was kind of like investigating this little baby bird on the floor, on the grass, chirping at her. And she was kind of like sniffing. She wasn't eating it. She wasn't doing anything wrong to it. But Rocky could kind of foresee. So he's running over to her. And this mother bird came down and started pecking on Molly's head, like, get away from my baby kind of thing. And so that's where Rocky had to kind of go, Molly, get away from the baby, So that's where he had to step in. So we had that kind of story happen with him.
Oh, nice.
But it was almost like, the animals can really communicate by their looks, or just, they don't have to speak like we do, or, like parents yell. They all knew that what Rocky was saying without having to say the word, or the barking, or that kind of thing. That was, to me, sitting, a favorite thing I love to do is be in the backyard and just watch the dogs play. To me, that was so entertaining. Who needs TV when you've got pets that run around and then they turn, they chase each other and go the other way, and then they go, that to me is entertainment.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite toys that he kept for a while?
He couldn't eat toys because when his jaw broke, he couldn't put them in his mouth. So it was really weird for my kids because they grew up with a dog that couldn't have toys. And he couldn't have balls because he would try and put it in his mouth. He couldn't eat bones. And what was interesting was because he couldn't eat bones, we couldn't have bones for Molly because he would try and get them, right? And so when we lost Rocky, and then we thought, okay, well, we'll give bones to Molly, she would not eat bones. And interestingly enough, as we've had the different dogs, so we had Rocky, then we got Molly, then, we literally lost Rocky, and then we got Willie, and then, Willie never ate bones. So it's kind of like every dog we've had, it started with Rocky not eating bones, and none of our dogs will eat bones. So, it's just kind of, and every dog that I've had, even since Spot, they get in bed and they lay their body against my leg. And that's how I go to sleep at night. And I've had 7 dogs all do this. They all pass it down to the next dog. This is what you have to do with mommy,
Off the top of your head, one of the most happiest or special times that the two of you sort of had together?
Oh my gosh. I don't know, because it was just Gosh, you're really putting me on the spot on this one, because it was he was kind of in my life. It was I would say more my whole time with him for 15 years was one of gratitude. He saved my life, and I was grateful every day for that. And it was, I wouldn't say our time was, I wasn't in a happy place when he was in my life, I guess you could say, because I was struggling to be alive, or I was, trying to cope with being abused. When I went through my divorce, he was there getting me through it. So, the happy times for me with him were, I'd say, watching him play in the backyard, nice. or just sitting and looking at each other, just the simple things. And, I can just look at an animal and really connect with them. And the whole world is not I can just block out the whole world and connect, with them. Those were the special moments for us.
Nice. Did you have a special spot in the house apart from when he wasn't right next to you?
No, he was wherever I was, he was. But what I've done now in my office, I have right beside me, every time we've had a dog cross over, I have all their collars. And they're collars. And so sometimes what's happened, if I get stuck or I'm trying to figure something out or whatever, I'll hear a little jingle in the drawer and the collars start to shake. And that's been reminding me that, hey, we're still here with you, Nice. So they still connect with me, and I'll hear a song come on, I'll feel like I need to turn the radio on, and I turn the radio on and I'll think of a song. When Rocky crossed over, I had always said to Ross that, Rocky was my savior. He was not only my best friend, but, he helped me to live, to survive, and to cope and to heal. And so when Rocky took his last breath at the time, I don't know, do you know the song by, is it Enrique Iglesias, Hero? Have you ever heard that song?
Hero? Possibly.
it for you. I don't sing. But anyways, it's basically the song goes, "Let me be your hero."
Mm-hmm.
And so that song was playing when Rocky took his last breath. And Ross had only been in my life for 3 months at that point, and we knew right from there that we were going to be together for the rest of our life. We just knew it was just that connection with us. And that song was playing on the radio, and Ross leaned into me and he said, let me take over for Rocky. Let me be your hero now. Because he knew how much Rocky meant to me. And so every time we hear that song, we always identify with Rocky, Rocky's coming through again, Yeah. So he still has his ways of, communicating with me. And, so sometimes you'll see me on stage and I'll just take a step back. And it's like, and people will say, "You saw Rocky, didn't you?" Because people who know what, I do and stuff like that, they come to my events. They know my little things that happen, my little quirks, because I kind of give it away after, what happens.
Sue, that has been an incredible story about you and Rocky and just that bond and the amazing sort of things that have happened to each of you. I'm blown away by that.
Yeah, and I always say to people, like, your pet will pick you. You don't know what's in store for you. And I thought, like, I'll say it again, I thought I was rescuing a dog and, from being put down, and I had no idea what my future was going to be holding. When I brought that dog in, that dog saved my life so much. And I always say to everybody, sit down on their floor, let the animal choose you, because they know what you need. And my gosh, that dog, just knew exactly. And it, just a gift, one of the greatest gifts I could have ever been given,
Absolutely. Now, I know there's been a bit of time since Rocky's passing, and what you're doing now in present day. Do you want to let people know what that is?
So I am an animal communicator, and I do healings on pets, and I teach people how to do healing on pets. So I teach them how to do Reiki. And so people can, book me. I have clients from all around the world, and I do the consultations with through Zoom. I help people to prepare for their pets crossing. The animals will tell me when they're ready. Again, it's not up to me to say, yes, go take your dog. I always say to people, your animal will give you this look. You will know when your pet's ready. I won't tell you that, animals will come through from the other side. I've been on the phone or through text, and I'm sending Reiki to a pet when it's time for them to cross over. During that time, I'm sending them Reiki just like I did on Rocky. And then I'm telling the owner at that same time what is happening to their pet. So with me having the near-death experience, when the portal opened, the white light was there, the tunnel, I'm explaining to the owners exactly what their pet is seeing as it's happening live. And so, all of these things I went through, it's all helped me to do what I do now, right? So I help people, to know that their pet's okay. I help people to understand, the messages, what has happened to them, and, how they're communicating. A lot of the pet people they're so grief stricken, which I understand, was there, that the animals are still with them, but because they're so grief-stricken, they don't feel or see or hear the signs that the pet is trying to communicate. So I come in, and then that's where I tell them, this is what your pet is doing. This is where it is. You're not hearing things, that it is, scratching on the back door and this kind of thing. So, it's really, really rewarding for me. So.
And where can people contact you to find out more?
So my website is youranimalcommunicator.com. And you can see, the different services I do. And, go to my Facebook, Ask Sue London, and sign up, be my friend, or how do you say it? Like me or something. I'm so good with this, aren't I? I have people that do my social media,
Nice.
but on there, I'll post like the upcoming events, and on my Instagram, I think that's Ask Sue London. You'll see it on my website, the links for it.
Yep.
But on there, I post all the pictures. I did an event 2 weeks ago in person, a festival, and I was doing Reiki on pets that were abused and helping the owners to understand this is the past, this is what your pet went through. And I was teaching people how to clear energy from the pets, because our world's crazy now, right? And a lot of people stressed, and the pets are taking on that stress. And so I was showing them how to release that. And so I was doing healing for 10 hours that day on animals and helping the owners. And it was a magical day, but it's not a job to me. It's like, helping a pet. It's just an honor, right?
Absolutely. So it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Rocky, an incredible dog.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate, talking with you and sharing my story. And I hope something that I've said, is going to help the listeners along their journey, and, reach out to me. And I'm here for everyone who needs some help.
I'm sure your story will connect with a lot of people. Thank you again very, very much.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thank you very much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the show. Thank you to our new listeners in Menlo Park in the US and also in Mansala in Finland. Welcome aboard. If you'd like to leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on, it would be appreciated. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, your dog is family.